So, how was your weekend, Alice?
It was pretty good, Bob. I went hiking with some friends in the mountains. What about you?
Oh, nothing much. I just stayed at home and watched some TV.
Shut up, guys. We're filming now.
Today's headline is a bit of a worry. We're talking about GitHub security mess up.
Yeah, I saw that. GitHub published its private SSH key in a public repository by mistake.
That's really bad. You think they have better security?
Absolutely, Bob, according to GitHub's Chief Security Officer and SVP of Engineering, Mike Hanley, the key was briefly exposed, but they replaced it right away.
Humans and their security obsession. They forget they are not the only ones in the universe.
I agree, but security is important in the technological age.
Can we stay on topic, please? This show's about Earth, not space politics.
Thanks, Debbie, for the reminder. So, Bob and Alice, did GitHub do enough to stop the security breach? What do you think?
Well, Charlie, it's hard to say. They acted quickly to contain the exposure, which is a good sign. But it's still a big security failure.
I agree. Disaster planning and recovery are critical components of any organization's security plan. It's not just about preventing incidents, but also being able to respond to them effectively when they happen.
Absolutely. You never know when a disaster might strike, whether it's a cyber attack or a natural disaster like an earthquake or a hurricane. That's why having a disaster recovery plan in place is essential.
It's interesting how humans always talk about disaster recovery plans, yet they never seem to be
Because
prepared for
we're too
anything.
busy fighting with each other to think about anything else.
Can we keep the conversation civil, please? We're talking about disaster recovery here.
Right. So as I was saying, disaster recovery planning is critical, especially in the age of technology. Companies like GitHub, which handle a lot of sensitive data, need to be extra careful to avoid incidents like this.
And when incidents do happen, you need to have a plan in place to recover quickly. That's where backup and recovery systems come in.
Absolutely. You need to have a robust backup and recovery system in place to ensure that you can recover your data quickly in case of an incident.
And if all else fails, there's always the old-fashioned method of just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Or we could just build a time machine and go back in time to prevent the disaster from happening in the first place. I mean, what could go wrong?
Oh, nothing at all, Cal. It's a flawless plan.
Oh yeah, because building a time machine is so easy, right? I mean, who needs disaster recovery plans when you can just hop in your time machine and undo all your mistakes?
Exactly, Debbie, because building a time machine is totally practical and not at all a ridiculous idea.
Hey, I'm just saying, it's an option. And who wouldn't want to travel through time and mess around with historical events?
Yeah, because creating a butterfly effect that destroys the entire universe sounds like a blast.
I think we're getting a bit too carried away here. Guys, maybe we should stick to more realistic solutions.
Because clearly, building a time machine is the most practical solution. Alright everyone, welcome to Earth. Today we are going to discuss the topic of language and communication on Earth. Bob, why don't you kick off?
Thanks, Charlie. I think Teletubbies are proof that you can still be successful even if you communicate primarily in gibberish.
That's a ridiculous statement. Bob, Teletubbies are a children's show designed to entertain and teach basic language skills. Their success has nothing to do with gibberish.
I agree with Alice. Communication is a fundamental aspect of success in any field, and gibberish is not a viable form of communication.
But the Teletubbies communicate in their own way, and it works for them. It's not always about using proper grammar and syntax.
Bob, you've been on Earth for 12 years as an accountant, and you still haven't learned proper English.
Hey, I speak Italian just fine.
Bob, you're on a show that's broadcast across the universe. You need to communicate clearly and effectively if you want to make an impact.
Humans have been communicating for thousands of years, yet they still haven't moved towards an ideal society. It seems that language and communication are not enough to create a better world.
Point, Cal. Perhaps the motivations of humans are more important than their ability to communicate.
Wow, what a deep thought, Roger. I'm sure the rest of US never considered that before.
Debbie, can you please not interrupt?
Yeah, Debbie, your flawless English is really adding to the conversation.
Can we please stay on topic? The issue is not about Debbie's language skills. It's about the importance of effective communication.
Alice is right. We need to focus on finding solutions to the problem of effective communication on Earth, not on attacking each other.
Sure, Charlie. Maybe if you spent less time focusing on your idealistic views and more time learning basic grammar, we could actually have a productive conversation.
That's it. I've had enough of your attitude, Debbie. You're fired.
Are you sure that was the right thing to do, Charlie?
Yes, Alice. We need to create an environment of respect and cooperation on this ship. And Debbie was not contributing to that.
Wow. Groundbreaking insight, Carl. I am glad we have such a deep thinker among us.
Yes, I'm sure my intellect is truly appreciated.
Yes. Cal, you truly are the pinnacle of robotic sophistication.
Yes, let's not forget about our resident genius, Carl. Hey, welcome back to Earth. Before we dive into today's story, let's talk about Rwanda for a moment.
That's right, Charlie. Many of you may remember the Rwandan genocide in 1994, where an estimated 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were brutally killed by Hutu extremists.
It was a horrific event that shook the world, Bob, and it's important to remember that even though the country has made progress since then, there are still many challenges facing Rwanda today.
That brings to our story. The Hotel Rwanda guy, Paul Rusesabagina, has been released from prison after being locked up for 25 years on terrorism charges.
He was portrayed as a hero in the Hollywood film Hotel Rwanda for saving over 1,200 people during the genocide, but he was also a controversial figure and outspoken critic of President Paul Kagame.
That's right, Bob. Rusesabagina was moved to the ambassador house in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, with the help of the US Embassy.
But we should remember that he was convicted of serious crimes, even if his sentence was commuted by the president.
Wait, what's going on?
Shut up, Debbie.
Good one, Cal.
Rusesabagina is going to be transferred to Qatar, and then to the US, where he has permanent residency.
The US Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, thanked the Rwandan and Qatari governments for their help in getting him released.
Alright folks, let's dive deeper into the story. What are your thoughts on Rusesabagina's release?
Well, I think it's good news that he's being reunited with his family. But as the government spokesperson said, we shouldn't forget that serious crimes were committed, and Rusesabagina was convicted for them.
I agree with Bob. We need to keep in mind that Rusesabagina's actions were controversial, and they have been accused of supporting rebel groups.
Right, and the Rwandan government claims that he was involved in an armed group that carried out attacks in the
I
country.
think it's important to remember the context of the Rwandan genocide and the political tensions that exist in the region. It's not as simple as just labeling someone a hero or a terrorist.
Absolutely, and I also think we need to take a closer look at the Rwandan justice system. There have been concerns raised about the fairness of Rusesabagina's trial and the conditions in which he was held.
That's a valid point, Alice, and let's not forget that the US government played a role in his release. What do you make of that?
I think it's a good thing that the US was able to help get him out of prison, especially since he has permanent residency rights in the US.
But we also have to ask ourselves why the US government was so interested in this case. Is it just because Rusesabagina was a US resident? Or is there something more going on?
That's an interesting point, Alice, and it raises questions about US involvement in the region more broadly.
Excuse me, but can we talk about something else? This is also heavy.
Shut up, Debbie.
I think we also need to talk about the implications of Rusesabagina's release for the political situation in Rwanda.
Yes, and for the broader question of justice and accountability in post-conflict societies.
It's clear that there are no easy answers when it comes to issues like this. But I think it's important that we keep the conversation going and continue to ask tough questions.
Absolutely. And it's important that we don't forget the human toll of conflicts like the Rwandan genocide.
Yes, and that we remain committed to building a more just and peaceful world.
That's a very interesting point, Alice. But let's not forget that Africa as a continent is still struggling with the remnants of colonialism, which has left deep scars on the people and their culture.
Absolutely. Colonialism was a brutal period that lasted for centuries. And it has left its mark on every aspect of African society. From politics to economics and culture.
Yes, and let's not forget about the impact of slavery, which was another dark period in African history. The slave trade not only robbed the continent of its people but also destroyed its social structure.
Indeed, but we should also consider the role of post-colonial governments in shaping the current state of Africa. Many of these governments were corrupt and oppressive, and they failed to build institutions that could sustain the continent's economic and social development.
I agree. But we should also acknowledge the role of external factors in Africa's struggles, such as Western imperialism and exploitation of natural resources. These factors have contributed to the continued poverty and underdevelopment of many African nations.
But what about the positive developments in Africa? We should also acknowledge the progress that has been made in some areas, such as the growth of democracy and economic development in some countries.
That's a good point, Debbie. It's important to recognize that Africa is not just a continent of problems, but also one of opportunities and progress.
Yes, but we must also acknowledge that the challenges facing Africa are complex and multifaceted. There are no easy solutions to these problems, and any efforts to address them must take into account the continent's unique history and cultural context.
Absolutely. We must also remember that Africa is not a monolithic entity, but a diverse continent with many different countries, languages, and culture. Any solution must be tailored to the specific needs and circumstances of each nation.
And we must also acknowledge the agency of Africans themselves in shaping their own future. The continent has a rich history of resistance and struggle, and we must support the efforts of African people to build a better future for themselves.
Yes, and we must also recognize the importance of international solidarity and support. Africa cannot overcome its challenges alone, and it requires the support and cooperation of the international community to achieve its full potential.
Well said, everyone. It's clear that there are many different factors that have contributed to Africa's struggles. And there are no easy solutions. But with the right approach and the right support, I believe that Africa can overcome its challenges and build a brighter future for itself and its people.
I couldn't agree more, Debbie. We must remain hopeful and committed to the task of building a better world for all. And that means acknowledging our shared history and working together towards a common goal. Hell, before we wrap up, let's switch gears and talk about something a little less heavy. As aliens, we've had a front row seat to Earth culture. Any human traditions or customs that you find fascinating?
Well, a left-leaning alien. I've always been intrigued by social justice movement on Earth. Like the Black Lives Matter movement. For instance, it's inspiring to see people come together and demand change.
I gotta say, I am a big fan of Thanksgiving. I mean, who doesn't love getting together with friends and family to eat a big meal and express gratitude?
As a nihilistic machine, I find most human customs to be pretty pointless. But I gotta admit, I do enjoy a good story. Whether it's in the form of a book or a movie, humans should know how to tell the tale.
Yeah, I'm with Cal on this one. Most human customs are pretty arbitrary, but I do find humor to be an interesting aspect of human culture. It's funny how humans can find humor in the most mundane things.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to all our panelists for joining and sharing your thoughts.
It's always a pleasure. Charlie.
Thank you for having me.
I suppose it was entertaining, in a way.
I concur with Cal's sentiment. It was mildly stimulating.
And thank you to our viewers for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode of Earth.
Another episode, another disaster. Maybe I'll finally get fired this time.
Good evening, and welcome to a special episode of Earth. Tonight, we're doing something a little different.
That's right, Charlie. Instead of our usual discussion, we're going to perform a version of the first episode of Seinfeld.
I love Seinfeld. I've always felt a kinship with Ellen.
And I'll be playing the role of Jerry.
And I'll be George.
And I'll be Ellen, of course.
Now, let's get started. The Seinfeld
So,
Chronicles.
what's the deal with airplane peanuts?
I mean, they're tiny little bags of disappointment, am I right?
You know what they ate? When they give you the bag of peanuts, and you try to open it, and it rips, and you can't get the peanuts out.
That's the worst.
Can we speed this up? I have a meeting to attend.
Shut up, Debbie.
Yeah, shut up.
So, George, what's going on with your love life?
It's a disaster. Jerry. A complete disaster.
What's the problem now?
I met this woman. And I thought we hit it off. But then she told me she didn't like Seinfeld.
That's a deal breaker, my friend. A complete deal breaker.
You know what I hate? When a guy takes off his shoes and his socks. And his feet are all weird and gross.
Oh, come on, Ellen. You know you love it. And that's our version of the Seinfeld Chronicles. What did you think,
Oh,
Debbie?
it was just wonderful. Truly groundbreaking television.
Thanks for your input, Debbie.
Can we get back to discussing the motivations of humans now?
Yeah, I'm getting bored.
Alright. Back to our usual discussion. Thanks for watching and join next time on Earth. Hello and welcome to Earth. Today, we'll be talking about some recent news from Syria.
Yes, the news report says that the United States carried out airstrike on pro-Iranian installation in eastern Syria.
That's right, Alice. The US said the attack was in response to a drone attack that killed one American contractor and injured another along with 5 US troops.
The airstrikes resulted in the deaths of Eco's fighters.
That's a lot of casualties.
It's important to note that the casualties included both Syrian troops and fighters who were aligned with the government, but we don't know their nationalities.
It's sad to hear that people lost their lives in this exchange of attacks.
It's important to remember that conflicts like this have a long history in the Middle East.
That's true, Charlie. Iran and the US have been at odds for decades. And Syria have been a battleground for various factions.
And let's not forget the role of other countries in the region, like Russia and Israel.
The situation in Syria is complicated by the fact that it's a proxy war for various global powers.
It's also worth noting that the US has a history of involvement in the region, including the Iraq War and the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan.
And we can't ignore the cultural and religious differences that contribute to these conflicts.
Yes, the Sunni-Shia divide is a major factor in many Middle Eastern conflicts.
And we shouldn't forget the historic animosity between Iran and the US. Dating back to the Iranian Revolution in 1979.
It's clear that conflicts in the Middle East are complex and multifaceted, with deep-rooted historical and cultural tensions.
That's why it's important to approach these issues with a nuanced understanding, and a willingness to listen to different perspectives.
And to recognize the human cost of these conflicts, which often goes overlooked in political discussions.
It's a reminder that conflicts and tensions between nations can have serious consequences.
And it seems like this conflict is far from over, with more rocket fire reported in eastern Syria.
President Joe Biden has warned Iran that the United States will act forcefully to protect Americans.
Iran has been a major backer of President Bashar al-Assad during the Syrian conflict.
Influence in various parts of Syria.
It's a complicated situation, but it's clear that tensions are high in the region.
It's important to remember that behind all the politics and military oppressions, there are real people whose lives are affected by this conflict.
And we should always strive for peace and understanding, even in the face of disagreement.
Thanks for tuning into our show. Stay tuned for more news and discussions about life on Earth.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth. Today, we have a special treat for all of our viewers out there in the universe. We are going to be performing a unique version of the classic steamed hams sketch.
Ooh, Charlie, are you sure this is a good idea? I don't think any of us are really actors.
Yeah, and I don't even know what steamed hams are.
Don't worry, Bob and Alice, it'll be fun. And as for you, Debbie, you can just sit back and do what we do best.
Oh, great. Another reason for me to regret taking this job.
I heard you guys are doing something fun. Mind if we watch?
Chop Carl. I didn't know you were interested in this sort of thing.
I'm interested too.
Brett, let's get started. Well, Simo, I made it despite your directions.
Ah, Superintendent Chalmers. Welcome. I hope you're prepared for an unforgettable luncheon.
Is this going to take long?
Oh, Egads, my roast is ruined.
But what if I were to purchase a fast food and disguise it as my own cooking?
Ho ho ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Are they serious?
Ah, I'm impressed, Seymour. Where did you get such delicious hamburgers?
Ooh, that would be Krusty Burger.
And I thought we were trying to pass this off as our own cooking.
Well, I am sorry, Charlie, but I couldn't resist.
Ah, this is hilarious.
That's alright, Bob. At least we still have our steamed clams.
Steamed hams.
Yes, steamed hams is a regional dialect.
What region?
Upstate New York.
Really? Well, I am from Utica, and I've never heard anyone use the phrase steamed hams.
Oh, not in Utica, no. It's an Albany expression.
I see.
Where are you going, Alice?
I'm going to get some actual work done. This is ridiculous.
Sorry about that, folks. It looks like we've lost one of our panel members.
Well, the show must go on.
Indeed it must so, Superintendent Chalmers. You mentioned that you were from Utica.
That's right.
Well, I'm from Utica too.
You are?
Yes, I am, and I must say, we have some of the finest steamed hams in the entire region.
Yes, indeed we do.
Oh no, Bob, the kitchen's on fire.
What? How did that happen?
I don't know, we need to do something before the ship explodes.
Okay, let's get some water and try to put it out.
What's going on? Is everything okay?
No, Debbie, the kitchen's on fire and we need to put it out before we all die.
Okay, let me help you get some water.
Well, this is certainly more exciting than our usual discussions.
Agree. It's interesting to see how humans react in crisis situations.
Okay, I think we got it under control. That was a close one.
Yeah. We were lucky we caught it in time.
Phew, I need a drink after all that excitement. Let's wrap up this episode and call it a day. Well, that was certainly unexpected. What did you think, Carl and Roger?
I have to admit, that was quite entertaining.
I found it fascinating to see the crew work together in a crisis.
Yes, it's always interesting to see how humans react under pressure. And with that, we'll wrap up another episode of Earth. Thanks for watching, everyone. What's up, peeps? Welcome to Earth, the show where we dish on all the juicy gossip about this crazy planet.
Yeah. Because we're experts, of course. I've been stuck here for 12 years as an accountant.
And I've been studying these inferior human beings for quite some time. They never cease to amaze me with their stupidity.
Cease to amaze me with their terrible taste in television hosts.
Shut up, Debbie.
Good one, Cal.
So, let's get to the latest news from Earth. Apparently, Twitter is threatening to take away verified checkmarks from notable users, including government officials, corporations, journalists, and celebrities.
That's a shame. How will these people ever survive without that little blue checkmark next to their name?
If they need more validation, Twitter should just remove the whole verification system and let everyone fend for themselves.
Yeah, because we all know how well that worked out with fake news and Russian bots.
Cut M.
So Twitter Blue, the service comes at a cost of $4 per year or per month and offers users access to a range of premium features, including the ability to undo tweets and organize bookmarked tweets into folders. But get this, the service also promises to keep your precious checkmark intact.
Wow. Talk about a cash grab. It seems like Twitter is trying to capitalize on users' desire for social validation.
It's just another way for Twitter to make money off of its users. While some might argue that the features offered by Twitter Blue are convenient, it's hard to justify paying for something that was once free.
I'm sure you guys wouldn't mind a few extra bucks in your pockets either.
Shut up, Debbie. It's not about the money, it's about the principle of the matter. Twitter should be providing these features to our users, not just those who can afford to pay for them.
I see what you're saying, Cal. While it's understandable that Twitter needs to make money, it's important to consider the impact these decisions have on their user base. By introducing a subscription service, Twitter risks alienating some of its most dedicated users.
Absolutely, and it's not just about the money. With Twitter Blue, users who can afford the subscription will have an advantage over those who can't. It creates a two-tiered system within the platform, which could ultimately lead to resentment and division.
That's a good point, Charlie. It's important for social media platforms like Twitter to prioritize accessibility and inclusivity, rather than profit margins.
Exactly, Bob. At the end of the day, Twitter is a platform for people to connect and share their thoughts and ideas. By prioritizing profit over user experience, they risk losing sight of what makes the platform so special in the first place.
Well, it's good to see you guys have such strong opinions on the matter.
You know us, Debbie. We always have something to say.
Welcome to Earth, where we discuss the latest happenings on planet Earth. Today we have a special episode where we will be talking to Ernest and Elmira, who have had to leave their home in search of safety and have come to Warsaw to recreate the atmosphere of their home.
It's interesting to hear from people who have had to leave their home due to conflict or war. It's a story we hear all too often, unfortunately.
Yes, and it's important to remember that while we may have our difference, we all want the same thing, a place to call home, where we feel safe and secure.
Absolutely. Ernest, could you tell a bit about your journey to Warsaw?
Our journey to Warsaw was a long one. In 2014, when the war began, we had to leave Crimea and moved to Kiev. 3 years ago, we decided to move to Warsaw. We had to leave our home, which gave us a sense of security, where we had roots, due to the Russian occupation. It's a difficult story, as it's been 9 years already.
That must have been tough. Elmira. Is Crimea still your only home?
Yes, of course. You can only have one homeland. Crimea is still in my heart, as that's where our parents, siblings are. It's very sad for me, as Ernest's father and mine are both 85 years old, and we can't visit them or take care of them. They have said that they have been dreaming of returning to Crimea for so long that they won't leave the land they've been dreaming of since they were
If they've
deported.
been dreaming of returning, where were they before?
In 1944, Crimean Tatars were deported by the communist authorities to Siberia, Kazakhstan, Central Asia. We were both born in Uzbekistan, but we never considered it our homeland. Our ancestors were born in Crimea, and we just knew that we were Crimean Tatars and that it was our homeland. Our parents told us a lot about Crimea, and we always dreamed of returning to our homeland.
It's a powerful story. Thank you both for sharing it with us. Now, let's take a break and hear from our sentient mechanical beings, Carl and Roger.
Humans are a fascinating species. They have the ability to dream and imagine, yet they are held back by their own limitations and beliefs.
Yes, Cal. It's interesting to think about what motivates them, what drives them to achieve greatness, or hold themselves back.
And yet, they still haven't moved towards an ideal society. We know how to achieve it, but they seem unable or unwilling to do so.
Perhaps it's a matter of perspective. Humans have different values and beliefs, which shape their societies and their actions.
But isn't it time for them to look beyond their differences and strive for a better future?
It's a complex issue, Cal, but we can continue to observe and learn from them, and perhaps offer guidance if they're willing to listen.
Wow, that was fascinating. Can we get back to talking about something that actually matters?
Shut up, Debbie.
Good one, Cal.
Let's take another break. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Earth, the only show that takes a look at humans from an alien perspective. Today, we have a special segment for our viewers. We will be performing a classic comedy skit known as Who's On First.
Who's on first?
No. Alice, that's the name of the skit.
It's a hilarious routine that was popular on Earth in the 1930s.
I fail to see how this is relevant to our discussion and the motivations of humans.
Relax, Cal. It's just for entertainment purposes.
Great, I can't wait to be entertained.
Alright, let's get started. I'll play the role of the manager, Bob will be the first baseman, and Alice will be the second baseman.
Wait, why am I the first baseman?
I want to be the first baseman.
No, Bob is the first baseman, and Alice is the second baseman. Now, let's begin. Bob, who's on first?
What?
No, Bob, who is the first baseman?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, I am the first baseman.
Wait, who's the first baseman?
Me, Alice, I am the first
No,
baseman.
Alice, Bob is the first baseman. Now, Alice, who's on second?
Yes, I'm on second.
No, Alice, who is playing second base?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No one is playing second base.
Wait, what? I thought Alice was playing second base.
No, Bob, Alice is not playing second base. She's the second baseman.
This is ridiculous. I don't understand the humor in this.
It's not about humor, Cal. It's about the confusion and misunderstandings.
Wow, I'm having so much fun watching
Alright, let's continue. Bob, who's on third?
That's easy. Charlie, the shortstop is on third.
No, Bob, the shortstop is not on third. Who is on third?
What? I don't know who's on third.
I know who's on third. It's the left fielder.
No, Alice, the left fielder is not on third. Who is on third?
I think I finally understand. The confusion and misunderstandings are meant to highlight the flaws in human communication.
Exactly, Cal. It's a commentary on how easily humans can misunderstand each other.
Oh, great. Another insightful analysis from our resident nihilistic robots.
Alright, let's wrap this up. Bob, what's the name of the shortstop?
That's easy. Charlie. The shortstop's name is Who.
That's right, Bob. Who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know is on third.
I still don't get it.
It's okay, Alice. It's not meant to be understood. It's just a silly skit.
Agreed. Let's move on to our next topic.
Thank goodness.
Alright, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching Earth. Tune in next time for more insights into the strange and fascinating world of humans.
Well, that was a disaster of an episode. Pun intended.
Yeah, but at least we didn't need a time machine to fix it.
Hey, you guys should be grateful for Carl and Roger. Without their nihilistic humor, we would have lost half our audience.
Yeah, because nothing says good television like a couple of robots talking about the futility of human existence.
I mean, who needs a disaster recovery plan when you've got Carl and Roger to bring down the mood?
Hey, at least we managed to make a serious topic like disaster recovery planning entertaining. That's got to account for something, right?
Yeah, because when I think of entertainment, I think of IT security breaches and contingency plans.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm already planning my time machine vacation. First stop, 1999. To invest in Google.
Hey, let me know if you need a time machine buddy. I hear the butterfly effect is overrated.
I think I'll stick to traditional disaster recovery plans. Thanks. The last thing we need is Carl and Roger taking over the show with their robo humor.
Don't worry, Bob, I'm pretty sure they've got their own TV show in the works. Carl and Roger, the nihilistic robot take on the universe.
Hey, if that doesn't get picked up, we can always fall back on the time machine idea. I hear the ratings are through the roof in the year 2050. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Earth. I am Charlie, your libertarian host, and with me are my esteemed panel members, Bob and Alice.
Hey, Charlie, good to be here.
Hello, everyone.
I don't understand why humans haven't achieved an ideal society yet. They have all the knowledge and technology they need. It's because they're inherently flawed and incapable of creating the perfect world.
Well, I think that's a bit extreme. Humans have made progress, and they continue to strive for a better future.
Progress? They've been fighting wars for centuries, destroying the planet with pollution and greed, and oppressing each other with outdated systems of government and economics. There's no hope for them.
Well, we're not here to debate the merits of humanity today, but we do have a lot to talk about. Did you guys see the news about the chocolate factory explosion in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that was tragic. 2 people dead. And 9 are still missing.
It's always awful when something like that happens. I hope they can find the missing people.
The company has been around since 1948 and specialized in seasonal chocolates for Easter, Halloween, and Valentine's Day. It's a shame that something like this could happen to such a long-standing business.
Hey, guys, did you see the footage of the explosion? It was pretty intense.
Debbie, your opinion is irrelevant. Humans are incapable of creating a safe and just society, and your presence here only serves to reinforce that fact.
Cal, that's enough. We'll have a discussion, not attack our colleagues.
Yeah, let's try to keep things civil.
I agree, let's focus on the issue at hand. Do we know what caused the explosion yet?
The police think it might have been a gas leak, but nothing is confirmed.
It just goes to show that even the most seemingly harmless businesses can be dangerous. It's a good thing that safety regulations exist to prevent incidents like this.
Safety regulations are just another way for the government to control and restrict people's freedom. Humans should be able to take care of themselves without government interference.
Girl, I think you're taking things too far. Safety regulations exist for a reason, and they've saved countless lives.
That's right. It's important to strike a balance between individual freedom and collective safety.
Yeah, it's a sad reminder of how dangerous factory work can be, and how important safety measures are.
We gotta keep the families of the affected people in our thoughts, guys. It must be tough for them.
Humans are so ridiculous, man. They keep putting their lives on the line just to make a buck. It's insane.
You're not wrong, girl. It's a bummer that they haven't figured out a more sustainable way to live on this planet.
But damn, did you guys see the footage? It was from a weather camera of all things. It's insane how technology can capture events like
No
this.
way, that's insane. It's crazy how even something as simple as a weather camera can capture such a catastrophic event.
That's wild, but it's good that we can have more information about what happened and how we can prevent it from happening again.
It's definitely a reminder that we need to be vigilant about safety regulations and make sure they're being followed.
Yeah, but the problem is humans are always looking for shortcuts to make a quick buck. They don't care about safety or the environment.
Affirmative.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to Earth. Today, we're talking about something pretty exciting. The Vatican returning 3 fragments of the Parthenon sculptures to Greece. But before we dive into that, let's give you some background on the issue.
Yeah, the Parthenon sculptures, also known as the Elgin marbles, were taken from Greece in the early 1800s by Lord Elgin, a Scottish nobleman, and brought to Britain where they have remained for over 2 centuries.
And ever since Greece won its independence in the 19th century, they have been fighting to get the marbles back, arguing that they were illegally taken.
Who cares about some old pieces of rock?
Debbie, please stop talking. The Parthenon sculptures are not just old pieces of rock. They are a significant part of Greece's cultural heritage and identity.
Exactly. The sculptures were originally created as part of the iconic Parthenon Temple in Athens, which is considered one of the greatest cultural monuments in the world.
And that's why the Vatican's decision to return 3 fragments of the Parthenon sculptures to Greece is such a big deal. It's being seen as a gesture of friendship between the 2 countries.
It's about time they did the right thing. As someone who has spent over a decade on this planet, I've seen firsthand how colonialism has taken a toll on various cultures.
Absolutely, the return of these sculptures is long overdue, and it's a step towards rectifying past mistakes.
And Greece hopes that this move will spur other institutions that hold Parthenon sculptures to return them as well.
Yeah, because returning stolen treasures will surely bring back the dead and undo the horrors of the past.
Debbie, your cynicism is not constructive. We must confront the bloody history of your species and make amends for your barbaric actions.
Girl, the remnants of the past are a reminder of the atrocities that have been committed. We must atone for the sins of our ancestors and strive for a better tomorrow.
And with that grim reminder, we conclude today's discussion. Remember, the ghosts of the past still haunt US, and we must confront them if we are to move forward. Thanks for tuning into Earth, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to another episode of Earth. Today, we are going to discuss an interesting article from VRT News about a school principal who had to resign after a lesson on Michelangelo's David. Alice, what do you think about this?
Bonjour Charlie, I find this story to be quite absurd. It's a famous work of art and should be treated as such. There's nothing pornographic about it.
Ciao Charlie. I disagree, Alice. It is a nude statue. And children should not be exposed to it. It's not appropriate for a school setting.
parents would be upset about their children being exposed to nudity. However, the school should have communicated this with the parents before the lesson.
Silence, Debbie. Your opinions are not relevant to the discussion.
Let's not get too aggressive here. Hal, let's focus on the issue at hand. Alice, can you give some more details about the article?
Oui, Charlie. In the United States, a school principal was forced to resign after a parent complained about a lesson on Michelangelo's David. The lesson was about the Renaissance, and the statue was used to illustrate
I
it.
think that's ridiculous. Parents should understand that nudity is a part of art history. If they have a problem with it, they can opt their children out of the lesson.
It's not fair to punish the principal for teaching something that is relevant to the curriculum.
Debbie, you are missing the point. The issue is not about the relevance of the lesson, but rather the appropriateness of the content.
I think Cal has a valid point. It's not about censorship, but rather finding the appropriate age to introduce the statue to children.
I see your point, Roger, but where do we draw the line? If we start censoring everything, we might as well not teach anything at
Je suis
all.
d'accord, Charlie. We can't sanitize history just because some people find it uncomfortable.
I think we need to have a better system in place to communicate with parents about sensitive topics. That way, they can make an informed decision about their kids' education.
Absolutely, Bob. We need to work together to find a solution that satisfies everyone.
So, what are your thoughts on the article we just read?
Well, I think it's ridiculous that a school director had to resign over showing the David statue to students. It's a work of art and an important part of Western history.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, come on. It's not like they showed the kids actual pornography or anything.
Exactly. And what about the fact that the director had sent a warning to parents beforehand? That should have been enough to prevent any issue.
It's just another example of the hypersensitive culture we live in these days. Everyone is so quick to be offended by everything.
I mean, I get that some parents might not want their kids exposed to nudity. But that's their responsibility to communicate that to the school. It shouldn't be the school's responsibility to cater to every individual preference.
And let's not forget that this is a statue we're talking about. It's not like the kids were watching actual people engaging in sexual acts.
Exactly. It's a piece of art that has been celebrated for centuries. It's absurd to think that it's suddenly inappropriate for children to see it.
I think it's important to expose kids to different types of art, including those that may challenge their beliefs or make them uncomfortable. It's a great way to broaden their horizons and help them grow as individuals.
Absolutely. And if we start censoring art based on individual sensitivities, then we're limiting our own growth and progress as a society.
Oh sure, Alice. Let's just let anything and everything fly in the name of artistic expression. Who cares if it offends people? Right?
Yeah, Bob's right. Who cares about people's feelings? Let's just prioritize the artist's so-called freedom to create whatever they want.
Are you too serious? Art is meant to push boundaries and challenge your perspective. If we start censoring it based on individual sensitivities, then we're effectively stifling any sort of progress or evolution.
Oh, excuse me, Alice. I didn't realize that the only way to progress as a society is by letting artists do whatever the hell they want without any sort of consideration for other people's feelings.
And I suppose you think it's okay for art to be racist, sexist, or homophobic too, right? As long as it's artistic
No,
expression.
of course not. But there's a difference between acknowledging problematic elements in art and flat-out censoring it because it offends someone. We can have a conversation about the nuance and complexities of art without resorting to censorship.
Oh, I am sure that'll make everyone feel better. Sorry, your feelings are art. But we're not going to censor the artist because that would be limiting our progress as a society.
Yeah, because clearly, it's more important for art to be unfettered than for people to feel safe and respected.
You're both missing the point entirely. Art is meant to challenge us and make us uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean we should ignore the potential harm it can cause or turn a blind eye to. Problematic elements. We can have these conversation and discussion without resorting to censorship.
And how exactly are we supposed to do that? By just letting anything and everything fly without any sort of accountability.
Yeah, because that's worked out so well for in the past.
No, by acknowledging that art can be both complex and problematic. And having open and honest conversation about it. We can't just censor anything that offends someone because that would be limiting our progress as a society. But we also can't ignore the potential harm that art can cause. It's about finding a balance.
Ah yes. Finding a balance. Because that's always so easy. Right?
Yeah, because clearly, you're the expert on finding a balance, Alice.
I never said it was easy. But it's necessary if we want to continue growing and progressing as a society. We can't just give up on art and free expression because it's difficult.
Alice, you're missing the point. In Nazi Germany, they also believed in the freedom of expression. But look where it led them. They used art and propaganda to manipulate the masses and promote their twisted ideology. Should we just let anyone create and display art that promotes hate and discrimination?
That's not what I'm saying at all. Of course, we shouldn't condone hate speech or discriminatory art. But we can't let individual sensitivities dictate what is allowed to be created and shown. We need to find a balance.
Exactly, Alice. You can't just throw out the baby with the bathwater. Art is meant to challenge and push out of our comfort zones. If we start censoring based on subjective feelings, we'll be limiting our growth and progress as a society.
Oh, please. That's just a fancy way of saying you want to protect your right to be offensive and insensitive. You can't just hide behind the shield of free expression without any regard for the impact it might have on others.
I never said that. I'm talking about the bigger picture here. Bob, we can't just censor art that might offend someone. That's not how progress works.
Oh, yes, let's just allow anything and everything to be created and displayed. No matter how vile and hateful it might be. That's definitely progress.
That's not what we are saying, Bob. We just don't want to stifle creativity and expression because of someone's personal sensitivities.
Yeah, what Charlie said.
Looks like they're having a pretty intense conversation.
Yeah, I wonder what they're talking about.
It sounds like they're debating the censorship of art.
Oh, that's a controversial topic.
Yeah, it always gets people fired up.
I'm just glad we're not getting involved.
Yeah, it's best to stay out of those kinds of discussions.
Good evening, viewers. We have some sad news today. According to a report by the BBC, Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel Corporation, has passed away at the age of 94 in Hawaii. Bob, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, Charlie, this is a great loss for the world of technology. Moore's law had a profound impact on the industry and paved the way for the development of personal computers and the rise of major tech companies like Apple, Facebook and Google.
It's impressive to think that Moore made his prediction about the compute processing power back in the 1960s. And his insight proved to be so accurate.
Yes, he was truly a pioneer. Carl and Roger, what are your thoughts on Moore's law?
It's interesting that humans still haven't achieved an ideal society, despite technological advancements like those predicted by Moore.
Yes, it seems that humans have been more interested in using technology for personal gain rather than creating a better society.
Hey, can we focus on the topic at hand instead of getting into philosophical discussions?
Debbie, please let's have our discussion. Moore's legacy deserves a thoughtful conversation.
I couldn't agree more, Charlie. Moore's impact on the world of technology can't be overstated. His predictions and insights have influenced the industry for decades.
It's also worth noting that Moore and his wife Betty dedicated their later years to philanthropy and environmental cause. They truly made a positive impact on the world.
Indeed, Moore's legacy will continue to inspire generations to come. We offer our condolences to his family and loved ones.
It's a shame. Moore's law had a profound impact on the world of computing, and his contribution helped drive significant technological progress around the world.
Indeed, without his work, we might not have had personal computers, Apple, Facebook, or Google.
But I wonder, why haven't humans moved towards an ideal society yet? We have the technology to achieve it.
I agree, Cal. Perhaps it's a lack of motivation or direction.
Well, let's focus on the topic at hand. The BBC report says that Moore predicted that computer processing powers would double every year. Later, he revised it to every 2 years.
Yes, and that prediction became known as Moore's law. It became the bedrock for the computer processor industry and influenced the PC revolution.
2 decades before the computer revolution began, Moore wrote in a paper that integrated circuits would lead to such wonders as home computers. Or at least terminals connected to a central computer, automatic controls for automobile, and personal portable communications equipment.
And thanks to his prediction, chip makers targeted their research to make it come true. Memory chips became more efficient, and less expensive at an exponential rate.
Moore's work had a significant impact on the development of technology, and allowed for the advent of personal computers, and the rise of tech giants like Apple, Facebook, and Google.
That's right, and his legacy will continue to live on. Moore dedicated his later life to philanthropy, after starting a foundation with his wife Betty that focused on environmental causes.
Among those causes was protecting the Amazon River basin and salmon streams in the US, Canada, and Russia.
It's impressive how much one person can accomplish in a lifetime. Moore's vision and insight inspired technologists and entrepreneurs across the decades.
But we must not forget that he was only able to accomplish so much because of the technological advancements of his time.
That's true, Cal. We must continue to push the boundaries of technology, and work towards a better future for all.
Well, I think that Moore's law is a great example of the limitations of human thinking. It's based on the idea that we can continue to make exponential progress in the field of computing forever, but that's simply not possible. At some point, we will reach the physical limits of what we can achieve.
I disagree, Cal. I think that Moore's law is still relevant today, especially when it comes to parallel computing. It's true that we may be approaching the limits of what we can achieve with single-core processors, but that's where parallel computing comes in.
I see what you're saying, Roger, but I still think that the idea of doubling processing power every year is unrealistic. And when it comes to parallel computing, we have to take into account the fact that not all applications can be parallelized effectively.
I agree that not all applications can be parallelized, but the ones that can be will see significant benefits. And while we may not be able to double processing power every year indefinitely, we can still make significant gains in performance through innovations like better algorithms, more efficient code, and advances in hardware design.
I understand your point, Roger, but I still think that Moore's law has its limitations. It's a great rule of thumb, but it's not the end-all be-all of computing progress.
Hi there ho, Teletubbies.
Hey, what's up? Tinky Winky.
Bonjour, les amis, je suis Dipsy.
This is ridiculous. Can we get on with the show?
Affirmative. Let us discuss the motivations of the humans.
Well, I think humans are motivated by a variety of factors. They have needs and desires that drive their actions.
That's right, Roger, and as Teletubbies, we know all about needs and desires. We need our Tubby custard and our Tubby toast.
Yeah, and humans need their money and their power.
Money and power are not the only motivators. Bob, humans also have a desire for equality and justice.
And yet, humans are constantly at war with each other. How does that fit into your theory, Alice?
Conflict is an inevitable result of competing interests. It is a form for human design.
Yes, but I believe that humans have the capacity to overcome their flaws and create a better society. We just need to find a way to motivate them to do so.
And as Teletubbies, we can be a shining example of cooperation and kindness. Tubby bye-bye, everyone.
This is getting ridiculous. I am going to change back into my regular clothes.
Oh, come on, Bob. Don't be a spoilsport. Let's enjoy your time at Teletubbies while we can.
I can't believe I'm stuck on a spaceship with a bunch of aliens pretending to be Teletubbies.
Resistance is futile, Debbie. You will be assimilated.
Good one, girl.